It was early morning when I noticed an all-too-familiar pattern. An HOA cop had parked his vehicle on our ranch again, right where he had no legal right to be. This wasn't the first time he had ignored property boundaries, and I knew from past experience that simply asking him to move would accomplish nothing. I took a deep breath and assessed the situation. My grandfather, a man known for his decisive actions and unconventional problem-solving, was already watching the vehicle from the barn. "Looks like it's time for a little lesson," he muttered, cracking his knuckles. The HOA cop, oblivious to the rules he had broken, stepped out of his truck and began inspecting the surrounding area, clipboard in hand. He had been convinced by the HOA that this property was public access, and he seemed entirely confident in his perceived authority. I called my grandfather over and outlined the plan. Calmly and methodically, we positioned our tractor, lining it up with precision behind the cop's vehicle. The machine was fully functional and more than capable of moving the truck if needed. My grandfather's eyes twinkled with anticipation. He had dealt with similar situations in the past, and today would be no different. I stepped forward to confront the cop directly. "Good morning. I see you've parked on private property again. You're on land you have no authority to occupy. Please leave immediately." He glanced at me dismissively. "I have a right to be here," he said, with the confidence of someone who had repeatedly ignored property lines. I shook my head. "No, you do not. You've been warned before. This is trespassing. Step away from the vehicle or face consequences." He scoffed and turned back toward the truck. That's when my grandfather started the tractor. Slowly, deliberately, the massive machine approached the cop's truck. Using the tractor's controlled power, he gently but firmly nudged the vehicle, pushing it off the driveway and into the shallow creek that bordered the property. The truck skidded, splashing water and mud as it came to rest in the creek, completely immobilized. The cop's jaw dropped in disbelief. He had expected compliance, maybe a polite request to move, but certainly not this level of decisive action. I calmly walked up, documenting the scene on my phone. "This is your first and only warning," I said. "Any further unauthorized presence on this property will result in immediate legal action. You are trespassing, and your vehicle is now evidence of that trespass." The cop fumbled for his radio, clearly hoping for backup or justification, but he had none. The creek, the tractor, and the precise execution of the removal left him with no options. He had been publicly humiliated, and every second of the incident was recorded. Within hours, the HOA received detailed reports, including photos, videos, and a complete account of the trespass. Any attempt to intervene would expose them to liability for endorsing illegal actions. Karen and her board quickly realized the consequences of encouraging or supporting such reckless behavior. Neighbors, who had watched the spectacle from a safe distance, were quietly impressed. The story of the HOA cop's creek relocation spread quickly, demonstrating the absolute importance of respecting property lines and the preparedness of those who enforce their rights. By evening, the truck had been towed, and the property was secure. The lesson was clear. Trespass, arrogance, and entitlement have consequences. And when the owners are prepared, those consequences can be swift, decisive, and unforgettable. Because in the end, property rights aren't suggestions, they are law. And anyone foolish enough to ignore them, whether an HOA officer or an overzealous neighbor, will quickly learn that boundaries are enforced, and authority backed by action is undeniable. Karen's crew learned that lesson the hard way.